Local news outlets across Utah just named Saratoga Springs and Eagle Mountain two of the fastest growing cities in the state, running neck and neck depending on which agencies count you trust more. Both have serious new construction. Both have families relocating from out of state. But if you pick the wrong one, you'll know it every single morning on the commute, and you'll spend the next 3 years wondering why nobody told you the difference. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how Saratoga Springs and Eagle Mountain compare on commute, schools, lifestyle, price, and long-term fit, so you can make a confident decision instead of just guessing. Most buyers relocating to Utah County often narrow it down to these two cities, and then they get stuck. The homes look similar, the prices overlap. You can find a 4-bedroom in both for roughly the same payment. Everyone online has an opinion, but nobody lays out the actual side-by-side comparison, and almost nobody tells you that Eagle Mountain isn't really just one market, it's two. And that's what we're doing today. By the end, you'll know exactly which part of which city fits your lifestyle. Saratoga Springs sits on the eastern shore of Utah Lake, about 35 miles south of Salt Lake City. Distance to Silicon Slopes Tech Corridor and Lehi Draper varies a lot by neighborhood, but the closest points in the north are only about 5 miles out, while the southern parts of the city run closer to 15 to 18 miles. Now, Eagle Mountain is further west and slightly south, but here's the framing most buyers never get. Eagle Mountain is really two different markets. The Ranches sits right on the Saratoga Springs border and is close to everything. Eagle Mountain City Center is further out and genuinely different daily experience. Treating Eagle Mountain as one city is where a lot of buyers get confused. Both Eagle Mountain and Saratoga Springs are in Utah County, and you're moving into two of the fastest growing places in the entire state. Eagle Mountain has grown from around 43,000 residents in 2020 to over 60,000 today. And Saratoga Springs has gone from around 38,000 to just over 52,000 in that same stretch. This isn't just a local talking. Deseret News, KSL, KUTV all reported on this earlier in 2026. And depending on whose count you use, either city can claim the fastest growing in Utah title in a given year. That's how close this rate actually is. I have a listing right now in Saratoga Springs. It's an established D.R. Horton home from 2018 in the Legacy Farms community, with walking trails and real neighborhood amenities. So I'm out there constantly, but Saratoga Springs also has active new construction, and it's not automatically cheaper than Eagle Mountain. I recently had buyers who'd been house hunting out in Eagle Mountain because they wanted a bigger lot, and they ended up touring a Toll Brothers development in the northern part of Saratoga Springs, west of the Mountain View corridor. They absolutely loved it. The lot, it overlooked the entire valley. The location was closer in. Toll Brothers was finishing the basement, which most new construction in this area doesn't do. They loved the home, but they felt it was priced higher than they wanted to pay. I also see the flip side constantly. Buyers who wrote off Eagle Mountain as too far, sight unseen, then get out there and see what their money actually buys and get excited about it, especially once they understand which part of Eagle Mountain they're actually looking at. Saratoga Springs feels like a city that's arrived. The Ranches feels almost as arrived, minus the lake. Eagle Mountain City Center still feels like it's in the process of arriving, which is either an exciting upside or a daily inconvenience, depending on what matters to you most. Now, Saratoga Springs and Eagle Mountain aren't just growing fast. State population data and local news coverage this year put both of them at the top of the list for the fastest growing cities in Utah. And that growth shapes everything: your commute, your weekend lifestyle, how built out the infrastructure around you will feel in 5 years. But you're comparing Saratoga Springs to Eagle Mountain. The real question is, which part of Eagle Mountain? If you're moving to either of these cities, odds are you're going to end up commuting somewhere around Silicon Slopes, the Lehi to Draper Tech Corridor. If you're in the northern part of Saratoga Springs, only about 5 miles out, your commute can run as short as 10 minutes. Other neighborhoods in the city are a little bit farther, can run a little bit longer, depending on distance and the route. Primarily, you'll be taking Redwood Road occasionally Bangerter Highway if you're going into the South Jordan area. If you're in the ranches, you're about 8 to 9 miles from Silicon Slope, and that lands you closer to 17 minutes commute time. If it's Eagle Mountain City Center, your commute actually changes quite a bit. You're about 13 miles out. That same close point comparison is around 24 minutes under normal conditions. But if you hit rush hour or any kind of accident, it can run meaningfully longer because there's, in essence, only one road in and out of city center right now. I have a buyer who bought an Eagle Mountain City Center about a year ago, loves it. They work from home most of the time. They don't fight rush hour. They genuinely prefer the calmer, more open surroundings. I also have a seller in City Center right now who's moving closer in specifically because of the commute. Now, both reactions are real, and they usually come down to how many days a week you're actually driving that route. Whenever I'm heading out to City Center myself, I plan an extra 30 minutes just to make sure I'm on time. If you're commuting to Salt Lake City and want to take light rail, Saratoga Springs gives you a meaningful advantage. The Frontrunner commuter rail is accessible from Lehi with just a short drive. Eagle Mountain, it's a much longer drive. And City Center adds the extra drive time on top of that. So here's the math that matters. Even at the closest comparison points, City Center runs you roughly 14 minutes longer each way than Saratoga Springs. That's close to 30 minutes a day and over 2 hours a week. And that's before rush hour adds more on top of that. And don't underestimate this. A lot of buyers choose a house and then discover the commute after the fact. Drive the actual route yourself and at the actual time of day you'd be driving it before you commit. If you're looking at new construction, you're going to find some of the heaviest building activity anywhere in Utah County. In both of these cities, I pulled current active listings in both cities in the $500,000 to $600,000 price range to check the common assumption that Eagle Mountain is just simply newer and cheaper than Saratoga Springs. And the real answer is more specific than that. Lot size came out nearly identical between the two cities in that price range. Roughly 0.14 to 0.15 acres is the average in both. The idea that Eagle Mountain automatically gets you a bigger lot doesn't hold up in this specific pricing tier. It depends on the community. The price per square foot is where the real gap shows up. And it's modest, not dramatic. Eagle Mountain runs somewhere lower, maybe 5 to 10%. But the bigger driver is which part of Eagle Mountain you're comparing. City Center is where most of the newest, cheapest cost per square foot inventory sits. Harmony, Parkway Fields, Pinnacles, almost all with unfinished basements and built as room to grow. The ranches, it runs a much wider range of ages and price points. It competes directly with Saratoga Springs on price per square foot. Builder incentives right now aren't a one city advantage. From what I'm seeing, builders in both Saratoga Springs and Eagle Mountain are offering rate buy downs, seller paid closing costs, and similar incentives. Always ask each builder what's currently on the table and run the full payment, not just the sticker price. HOA presence varies by community in both cities, so always check what's included and what it costs before comparing sticker prices. If you have kids, both cities currently sit in Alpine School District, which is one of the largest and most respected districts in Utah. But here's some timely news you'll want to know if you're comparing these two cities. Utah voters passed Prop 14, which split the Alpine School District into 3 new districts. School board members were already elected in November of 25. They took office in January of 26, and the new districts officially launch in January of 27. But here's the good news for you. The new boundaries follow city lines, and Eagle Mountain, Saratoga Springs, Cedar Fort, and Fairfield all land in the same district, the West District. So whichever of these two cities you choose, you're staying in the same district as the other city. So that uncertainty at least is off the table. Both cities have relatively newer schools, good sports programs, good art programs. My own kids have gone to sports and music competitions at Westlake High, which serves much of the Saratoga Springs. The facilities were really nice. Eagle Mountain has multiple elementary and middle school campuses with high school boundaries varying by neighborhood. Some feed Westlake, some feed newer campuses closer to Eagle Mountain itself. Always verify based on your specific address, not just the city name. Both cities are heavily family oriented, and you won't find a meaningful cultural difference between the two. If you land in Saratoga Springs, Utah, lake access is going to be your standout lifestyle feature. Boating, paddleboarding, kayaking, fishing, sunset walks along the shore, the Pony Express Parkway Trail System, access to the marina, waterfront parks, plus more complete retail and dining nearby. If you're in Eagle Mountain City Center specifically, you're not going to find good restaurants or entertainment close by. If you're looking for a nice place to eat or somewhere to catch a movie, your closest real option is right on the Ranches Saratoga Springs border, where you'll find a movie theater, bowling alley, real mix of restaurants. Honest truth though, for both cities, you won't find fine dining or elevated live theater in either one. If you want live music, live theater, a genuinely nice dinner out, you're driving up into Salt Lake County, unless you're happy with Little Caesars or Mo Betta's in City Center. For grocery shopping, you're exclusively at Macy's. If you're in City Center, you're commuting at least as far as the Ranches and Saratoga border for anything more. If you love evening walks along a scenic trail, Saratoga Springs delivers that easily along the lake. Good luck finding a scenic trail anywhere in Eagle Mountain City Center. Wherever you land between the two, you'll have access to the broader Utah County outdoor lifestyle. Skiing at Sundance is 45 to 60 minutes away. Provo Canyon Recreation is close. The Wasatch Trail System is right there. If you're in the Ranches, you get your own real amenities. There's the Ranches Golf Club, more open space, newer communities with pools and clubhouses. You're a short drive from that same restaurant theater cluster on the border. City Center puts you genuinely further from all of it. Wherever you buy between these two cities, you're buying into strong long-term growth. Utah County is consistently one of the fastest growing counties in the country, and I expect good appreciation across Saratoga Springs, the Ranches, and Eagle Mountain City Center over the years ahead. Traffic and infrastructure are improving, not standing still, and here's a detail worth knowing. Anything that improves the commute into the Ranches and Saratoga Springs also improves the commute into Eagle Mountain City Center because they share the same road corridors. So infrastructure investment in this part of Utah County benefits you no matter which of these you choose. If you're thinking long-term, here's a number worth knowing. Government projections from the Governor's Office of Planning and Budget put Eagle Mountain past 150,000 residents by 2060, which would make it the second largest city in Utah County, just trailing Provo. Most of that growth is expected out in City Center where the land and the lower interest prices are. That's actually why I'd bet on higher long-term appreciation potential specifically in Eagle Mountain City Center over the next 10 to 15 years. Prices are starting lower today because of the longer commute. As City Center becomes more self-sustaining with its own employment centers, medical services, dining, entertainment, that gap has real room to close. Neither city is a bad long-term bet for you. Saratoga Springs and the Ranches offer more certainty today. Eagle Mountain City Center offers you a lower entry point and more upside as it matures. Choosing City Center based on price alone, though, a $30,000 difference in purchase price disappears in 2 years if the commute is costing you hours and hours of extra time every week. You need to actually test both areas before your due diligence period ends. You don't need to do this before you write an offer, but you should do it before due diligence runs out. If you're moving out to Eagle Mountain City Center, drive that exact route a couple of times at the times of day you'd actually be driving it. If you're looking at a lakefront or a golf course home in Saratoga Springs, take an evening walk right around dusk and see if the bugs bother you before you're stuck with them. Assuming all neighborhoods within each city is equal, verify the schools, the distance to retail, the road access, specific address, not just the city name. Also, don't ignore the HOA fees and infrastructure status. A lower base price in a community with high HOA fees or unfinished surrounding roads changes the comparison entirely. Choosing based off of where a friend or a family member lives rather than your own commute or school or lifestyle needs, just remember their life isn't your life. Comment guide or send me a message with the word guide and I'll send you my Utah City moving guide. It covers both cities with school info, commute details, and what builders have as active incentives right now.